So you've just come back from Sundance, which is your first time ever.
Yes.
How did this opportunity come about?
Well, I am friends with the writer-director, David Lowery, of the film A Ghost Story. And I'm actually really good friends with his wife, Augustine Frizzell, who's also a filmmaker. And we've collaborated with each other on projects. And so when David was making this film in Texas this past summer, he had come to me and said, "Hey, I have a role for you, Liz. Would you like to be in the film?" And I'm like, "Oh, of course." I'm a big fan of his work. I think he's so talented. So in addition to being a friend, I'm like a fan. And so then after that, when it was kind of getting to be into pre-production, him and the other producers came to me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in helping us and coming on board as a producer?" And so I'm a co-producer on the film as well. And so the film, it was an amazing experience when we were shooting it in Texas this summer. It's a beautiful film, and it got into Sundance, and it played just obviously recently. And so I went out there with them and was so excited to have my first chance and my first time being at Sundance with an actual film. I've known lots of filmmakers that have gone out to Sundance, but they don't really have a film at that time, which is great. It's great for meeting people and networking and so forth, but I always kind of wanted to go with something, and so I was very fortunate to not only get a chance to have my first time be with a film that I'm in and producing, but also something that I'm so proud of. It's a really beautiful film.
What an entrance.
Yeah.
Wow. So now with Sundance, I haven't gone myself, but from the people who have gone, I hear it's like this event that you have to like have a handbook to prepare for. So for you, what was your crash course? How did you make the most of your time as a filmmaker to survive and navigate through Sundance?
Again, I guess I was just really lucky because I went with Augustine and David, and they are pros. They've been going for years. David was also a juror this year. He was a juror on the shorts programs, and so I literally was just like, I'm following you. I'm following your lead. So I saw tons of movies. The films were fantastic. Got into some cool parties. The film was picked up prior to Sundance. A24, which is the distributor behind Moonlight and other successful films, picked it up beforehand. So I went to like an A24 party and other premiere parties, and so I was able to kind of follow the lead of Augustine and David, which was, again, so magical. Like, I was really, really fortunate.
So with an event like this, it's like drinking from the fire hose, the things that you learn, the people that you meet. So what helped you remember those important moments, those conversations and those ideas? Did you bring like a recorder? Did you write things down? Like, what do you do to capture that experience? And, not that it's just here and
right. About it. I don't know if I probably did as good of a job of that, but I just feel like I take the time. I take the time to talk to people, so then that's why you remember them. And if you have a business card, then you can always remember the name. But if you're really present while you're talking to people and meeting people and interested in them, you'll remember. You'll remember who they are. You'll remember their stories. And so I was just really inspired by the films that I saw and the filmmakers I met. It's just really exciting to come back home and feel like, that you are excited about making more projects and being involved in films, and so I just try to pay attention to the stories, and both the personal stories and then the stories you see up on screen, and let that kind of be your guide, inspiring you in the future as you're trying to make your own projects.
So what do you enjoy about being in Texas? Because I realize you can be anywhere.
Yes.
So what is about Texas that you like to call home, and also the place where you work?
I feel like it's simpler to make films in Texas than in other places. I know that there's a huge thing going on right now about our incentives, and it's unfortunate. I do hope that things change, because we do lose a lot of projects to other states. For example, Hell or High Water, which was an amazing film I loved. The story's based in Texas. It's about Texas, but yet they had to shoot it in New Mexico. I feel like that's unfortunate. With the movie A Ghost Story that I worked on, it was pretty low budget. I mean, it was a group of us filmmaker friends helping, the writer-director bring his vision to to life. So it was a low budget film. That doesn't matter as much, but when you're talking about a little bit bigger budgets, then it really does make a difference.
Right.
And I wish that we were able to bring more projects to Texas. But going back to that thing of like these filmmaker friends helping each other out, there's a really great community of artists here, whether they're writers or directors, whether they're actors, and I think there's a great spirit here in Texas, in Austin, in Houston, San Antonio, where people kind of group together and help each other make their films, and I'm happy to be a part of that.
What were some of your roles, your responsibilities as a co-producer of A Ghost Story?
That's a good question, and they usually ask that type of thing. I basically just say I do everything. Like I do everything or anything. There were different scenes that I kind of like I guess you'd say producing individual scenes. And I'm trying to figure out what I can say because we're trying not to say too many things about the film. But it's kind of like logistics,
okay.
A lot of logistical things. And then just really smoothing things out. Being a liaison between actors, like talent. We had Casey Affleck and Rooney Mara were the stars of the film. Being a liaison between them and, like the other producers and the director. Helping with the talent. Helping with like locations. Helping coordinate things. Doing all the kind of the behind the scenes stuff and trying to put out fires, I guess you'd say.
And of course, you act in it as
yes.
well. So, what is it about acting that inspires you?
Just I guess I would say, and I hate to even say this, but it's like the human condition. Like I'm fascinated by what we as humans go through, and I feel like that's kind of what connects all of us because we all have similar stories. And so I'm always fascinated by the struggles we go through, how we overcome them, and I just personally enjoy. I'm a very like self-analytical person, and I'm also a very emotional person. So by playing different roles, I'm able to go inside myself and really like pull out the different sides of me that I don't necessarily get to do on a regular basis, and I guess I love in general the whole collaborative process of filmmaking. So as an actor, you're working with other actors, bringing this story to life, taking these writers' words and bringing them meaning and bringing them to life. As a filmmaker, whether you're a producer or a director, you're doing the same thing. It's a whole collaborative thing, and I love that.
Now, when you act with people that are well known,
yes.
versus with people that are unknown. I mean, that can sometimes be a hindrance in a way. People get starstruck or
yes.
they're like, self-conscious. But
right.
in your case, how do you distinguish that? Or, how do you get past that when you're dealing with someone that's well-known versus unknown and you're acting alongside them in a scene?
I guess I just look at it as like we're all humans, and it did, there is a moment of feeling like, okay, I'm a little, I don't know if the word starstruck, but it's more like I definitely want to do a good job, but I kind of want to always do a good job,
right.
Whether there's somebody that's well known or not. I want to do it for the project, I want to do it for the director, and I definitely want to do it kind of for myself. So that it requires being focused, doing your preparation, and just being in the moment, which you're going to do whether or not the person's famous or not. Mm-hmm. I will say it's interesting that the actors that I've worked with that are established and well known, when you're not on camera and it's in between takes, it's amazing how they say the same things that the people that are not established and are not famous say, in terms of like having some self-doubt or wanting to do a better job, or and that was very refreshing.
Wow, yeah, that makes it real. Makes them relatable.
Yeah,
that they get nervous too.
Yes, totally.
Have the same questions.
Totally.
But in terms of them being established, this may be hard to simplify, but in terms of the established, seasoned, well-known actors, what are some common traits that you do observe that you can see? Oh, I see why they are in this industry. If there was some nuggets that you can take away from them.
Obviously, it's just total. Obviously they're really talented. That's just an innate thing that they obviously have. Mm-hmm. And then maybe it's a confidence. It's a being self-assured. I know that everyone has self-doubt, but there's a difference between having moments of being like, God, I don't know if I was delivering as well in this scene, or maybe I need to push stronger, versus just a way of carrying yourself with some sort of confidence. The actors, and I'm not just even talking about this project, I'm talking about other films that I've worked on that have had name talent in. It's just to kind kind of a way that they kind of carry themselves, and of being kind of like it's just like almost like a laid back kind of confidence that they have, that not that I have to have this, I've got to do this, because they're already doing it. I don't know if I'm wording it well.
Well, so like what's the difference between, say, self-confidence versus getting cocky?
That's a good question. Because I think believing in yourself, and again, this is stuff that actors always say, like just knowing that you're enough, that's the self-confidence. When you think that you're better than someone, that's where it gets into like being completely egotistical or cocky, that I think is a negative thing, because nobody's better than anyone else. Certain people maybe have a little bit more talent, certain people were probably given more opportunities, but the confidence comes with knowing that you are enough, and you in and of itself are interesting enough. So just take the material and just be present, and just do the work and know that you are enough. You don't have to push at it or try. And I think that's where, when you're starting out and you've got more insecurity, that you're trying to do something and trying to, and people can see that, and that's not interesting. That's, I think, what separates the people that are really more successful and are consistently working. But if you now start thinking you're better than someone else, I think that's where it turns into being, egotistical, and I think that's negative.
So speaking of accolades, there's accolades like Golden Globes and Oscars, but here you're at the SAG Awards.
Yes.
So what is it about the SAG Awards that makes it interesting to you that you would want to attend a SAG Awards watching party? What's different about it?
I think it's neat because it's like it's other actors voting on other actors, and most of the actors, if not all, that I've known and worked with really admire other actors. Like, when I meet someone that I think is really talented, I'm in awe of them because of their talent. And then if there's actors that you also admire for what they say off camera, how they conduct themselves, how articulate they are. And so I think it's exciting or fun to celebrate the roles and the performances that you were in awe of during the year, whether it's, oh my gosh, that was amazing, I would have loved to play that part, or that was amazing, I don't know if I could do that, they were fantastic, or they were so perfect for that role. I think it's just fun to celebrate that. And it's fun, it's also good, again, because it's a weird thing, it's like you're competing with certain people. Whatever market you're in, there's a competition amongst actors that I don't think there is within like producing or directing, because you're making your own individual work. Whereas when you're actors, like I could be going up against you for a specific role. So there's that competition. But at the end of the day, I feel like if you're supportive of the people in your community and supportive of fellow actors, it's just going to benefit everyone. And so this kind of gives us an opportunity to all come together and do that.
Wow. And so changing gears a little bit, if you could pick the brain of any actor or actresses, alive or dead, who would you want to just spend time with, and why? Anybody. It doesn't have to be just one person, but you can even name a handful if there's more than one.
Well, I mean, obviously there's a ton.
Yeah.
And that's so difficult because there are actors that are like old Hollywood classic actors that I would love to be able to go back in time and talk to. I know a general answer is Meryl Streep. And that seems like a very standard answer, but it's so true because she's such a talented actress. And I think she's so eloquent. And I love how she carries herself. She just seems so cool in addition to being insanely talented. So I would love to have a few minutes with her. And then just interviews that I've read with different actresses like Julianne Moore, for instance, when I've read about their things off camera in which they're like talking about a very emotional scene and that they were having a hard time with it that day. I find stuff like that so refreshing, because you put them up on a pedestal, and like we talked about earlier, everyone's human,
right.
And you have good days and bad days. So there's tons of female actresses that I look up to and would love to sit down with and just even have a few minutes with.
So with some of these famous actors like Meryl Streep, I know she uses method acting sometimes, but I'm always curious about the different acting techniques. Is when it comes to you and your acting, do you employ a variety of techniques at any given time, or does it kind of depend on the script, on what tool you decide to use?
You know, when I've studied acting, which I do, I've studied like the Meisner technique, I guess you'd say. It's not really method, and that's basically just talking about being in the moment, reacting, listening to the person. So it's not some major, method. I do draw upon experiences that I've had. I draw upon things that have inspired me, and I feel like I said earlier that I am by nature just kind of an emotional person, and probably intense and dramatic in life, so maybe it comes easier for me that way. I'm also have a kind of a silly person, and I feel like I'm still a kid, so I utilize those things as well. And so I just draw upon different things I've learned in classes, different things I've learned on set from other actors, and kind of create your own own way of doing stuff. And again, I really think it's about doing the work ahead of time, understanding the story, really understanding this character, doing whatever research you need to do, so that when you're on set, you can kind of let it go and be open to what's happening at that moment, and open to what the director's how the director is guiding you.
So Liz,
which is really the fun part of it, is kind of not knowing what's going to exactly happen, because that's how real life is, and that's
right.
literally what you're trying to do. And a lot of these films that I've worked on recently have been very artistic, very authentic films, and that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to show real life, real people.
And so with these directors, some you're friends with, but with directors that you might not know, how do you get to a point where you can trust them?
I guess it's when you choose what the projects that you choose. It's like you're choosing to work on films where you're familiar with that director's work, and so therefore you feel comfortable and safe. And then typically, you have either, if not rehearsals, you have meetings in advance, and so you have conversations, and then you're just like, you connect with certain people, and you just feel like, oh, yes. It's like you have to go with your gut. You go with your gut on the projects you work on yourself, like the stuff that I kind of write or I make myself. I use my gut. And then the projects that I work on that are other people's projects, whether it's I'm producing them or I'm acting, you just have to use your gut.
So at this point in your career, what's the highest compliment you've ever received from anyone for your work as an artist?
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's a total putting me on the spot question there. Very cool. No, I'm teasing. The highest compliment? Oh, okay. See, you're gonna make me get emotional. I made a short film that I wrote and directed, and I also acted in, and it was the first thing that I ever directed. And to actually star in something that you're also writing and directing was a huge, it was very difficult. And it was based on my personal experiences, taking care of my elderly father. And it premiered at the Dallas International Film Festival and then played at several festivals throughout the country. And it's very, very close to me because it's, again, something that I've lived through. And I started writing it because I thought it'd be cathartic. And then I just met so many people that were having to take care of a parent, and from all ages and all walks of life. And so I was like, gosh, this is really something that affects a lot of people. And so the fellow friends and filmmakers that I had that were interested in working on it were like, this is really good. We really need to make this. So I guess it wasn't like one thing. But at all of these different screenings that I went to, I would have people come up to me afterwards crying and saying, oh my gosh, that is exactly like what I went through. And I would have people that were like, I took care of my dad for 6 years, or I took care of my mom. And I literally had one lady, I played at the Vancouver International Film Festival, so it was in Vancouver. She was an older Asian lady, and she was like, that line in the movie that you say to your dad, she's like, I said that to my dad. And she's like, he passed away in my arms with a smile on his face. And she's like, I would not trade that experience for the life of me. And like, thank you so much for making this film. So I guess the combination of knowing that I was touching people emotionally with both my performance as well as what I wrote and directed. Look, is the film the best film in the world? No. I mean, I look back at it now because it was my first film, and I go, oh, I could have done this differently, or I would have improved this. But the fact that it resonated with people emotionally and touched people and made a difference, and I have had like social workers and nurses say, oh, you know, can I show families this? And I haven't done anything with it yet, but my plan was always to try to like contact caregiver support groups, Alzheimer's support groups, that type of thing, and put it out there that way. And so I guess so far, I mean, I guess that's the thing that's been the best.
Yeah, you struck a chord with your audience.
Yeah, and that made me feel really good.
Yeah, it really bridged a lot of gaps. And if anything, the timing of it is now's as good as time as any, because it's kind of a crisis in this country, because you know, when you look at the baby boomer generation that's retiring out of the workforce now, it's not too long thereafter. You know, we're talking maybe 15, 20 years away from where they possibly or statistically could be in that situation. Because I've heard it said that I've heard it said that 7 out of 10 people, like if there's a room of 10 people, 7 out of 10 people is going to need some kind of care at some point in their lifetime. So
and so many people are living longer.
Yeah.
And then so many people are having kids so much later.
Right.
So that's why you're having people that are like, now they've got a lot older parents than was typical before. So it does. It just affects a lot of people. And you know, if you're close with your family, you sometimes don't want to just put your parent in a facility. You know, you want to try to take care of them.
You want to try to take care of them, but then when you have, you know, family members living out of state, who's going to quit their full-time job to be a full-time caregiver, right?
Well, and what I found is it usually falls on one person. You'll have a bunch of siblings in the family, and one person's the one doing it. You know, that's typically the case. And I've also known people that they have kids, and then they have a parent come live with them, and so now they're taking care of both their parent and their own children, which is a juggling act in and of itself.
Like the sandwich generation.
Yeah.
So what kind of hurdles are you needing to overcome so that way you can help get your film out to all these places that are wanting to screen your short film?
It's not, I guess, time. I've literally had the opportunity to work on some of these other projects, which are great opportunities for me as an actress and a filmmaker to work with these established directors, kind of like the David Lowery. I just worked with Daniel Lobbs on a feature. And so then I put like my short film on the back burner to work on these opportunities. So I just haven't had the time to really go out and do that, but I will. And I just actually shot another short film. It's my second one. It's about my transgender niece. So I'm definitely inspired. Again, you were talking about what kind of inspires me, and it's like I'm inspired by true stories, real experiences, and so I work on these like smaller kind of passion projects on the side. Things that inspire me and that I think are important to kind of get out there, and that give me an opportunity to get my feet wet as a director and kind of grow as an artist and try to figure out like my own voice, I guess you'd say. And I try to combine that with working with like filmmakers that I'd really like to work with so I can learn from them.
So Liz, lastly, what are some of your websites for yourself as well as for your projects that you are able to share?
Okay, yeah. I have a production company called Hungry Bear, and it's hungrybear.com. And then my website is lizfranke.com. And then I've got obviously like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and all of those are, it's the Liz Cardenas Franke on Facebook, and then the Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff is Lizzy Franke, Lizzy. That's what my family and all close friends call me.
Well, Liz or Lizzie, thank you so much for taking the time from the award show to hang out with us.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate this. Anything I can do to help promote filmmaking in Texas and promote actors in Texas, I am all for.